Obasioge Amas, and then William Trustekongola Oluwaina, Igor Ogbu, Bright Side Samuel, Bruno Oyemechi, Oluwashimlo Ajayi. Midfielders Wilfred Didier Frank Oyeka, Christantus Ushe, which scored the winning sport kick against Jamaica. Papa Mustafa Fisa, Dele Bashiru, Rafael Oyedika, Samuel Chukwueze, Moses Simon, Kelechi Iheanacho, Nathan Teller, Victor Boniface, Tolu Arukudari, and Sadiq Umar. These are the players who definitely are going to be joined by the likes of Benjamin Frederick. You also have Sikiru Alimi. Who else? We have some other that's NPFL stars, Sadiq Ismail and Isaac Savior. That's in that list of players are set to represent the Super Eagles of Nigeria against Russia. Moving away from that, also let's quickly discuss about the French Open, where it was that's a good day for Carlos Alcaraz, who fought past American Ben Shelton in the third 4-set match to reach the French Open quarterfinals, while 𝐔𝐈𝐒𝐄𝐑 has staged the comeback against Ellen Rybakina and keep a bid for a fourth straight title alive. Reigning champion Carlos Alcaraz clinched the 7-6, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4 victory after 3 hours and 19 minutes on the court to book his last 8th berth for a fourth straight year. And Carlos Alcaraz now will take on Tommy Paul in the quarterfinals after the 12th seed saw off Alexia Popyrin 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. Well, also in some other games that went down yesterday for four-time Roland Garros champion 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿, who has been struggling for her best form and has not yet reached the final since winning the title last year. She was in serious trouble, went trailing 2-0 to Rybakina there in the second set, but the 24-year-old dug deep to clinch a 1-6, 6-3, 7-5 victory to win against Elena Rybakina. And then for Rybakina, she will face off against Elena Svitolina, who knocked out the 2024 losing finalist Jasmine Paolini in the last 8. That's later tomorrow. For 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿 now, she is on a 25-match winning streak. That's at the French Open and boasts a remarkable 39-2 win-loss record there in the tournament. But in the other of games are set to go down later today, that's talking about the Roland Garros. Well, we tell you that as early as 11, Ekaterina Alexandrova will play against Cory Kokogov, Loisa Boisian will play against Jessica Pegula, and then Cameron Norrie will be up against that's Novak Djokovic. Jannik Sinner also will be up against Andrew Rublev. That's talking about the games are set to go down in the men's category of that's the Roland Garros, as well as the WTA. All right, moving away from that, also quickly in the world of Formula One, Oscar Piastri drove with exemplary calm and control in a torrid race. That was yesterday to defeat rival teammate Lando Norris as the McLaren claimed a first Spanish Grand Prix victory since 2005 with a resounding 1-2 triumph. Well, you tell that it was a good weekend for the McLaren, and the 24-year-old Australian who came home 2.4 seconds clear of Norrie to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship to 10 points, with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc finishing third after a dramatic finale. Well, it was a great game race that's over the course of the weekend there in Spain. Well, for Max Verstappen of the Red Bull, he went for a 3-stop strategy that resulted in him losing third place. That's in the final lap before being handed a 10-second penalty for crashing into Mercedes' George Russell, who finished fourth. Quickly quickly, let's go straight into the European scene where it is all about the transfer news making the rounds. But when we go join our partners, the BBC. For Manchester United, they have signed a Brazilian. That's Matheus Cunha. From Wolverhampton Wanderers. Then we join our partners, BBC, to take a listen to what they have for us on that front before we talk more about the results of the UEFA Champions League game that went down over the course of the weekend. The program is still the program is still Scoreboard in 15 right here on 32 FM. So now we join our partners, the BBC, to take a listen to what they have for us on that front.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
Hello, I'm John Wilkinson at the BBC Sports Centre. Manchester United have agreed a deal with Wolves to sign their Brazil forward Matheus Cunha. The 26-year-old will head to Old Trafford for £62.5 million. That's the figure of a release clause in his contract. He'll sign a 5-year deal at United with the option of a further 12 months. Cunha scored 31 goals in 76 appearances for Wolves. He had joined them from Atletico Madrid for £35 million following a loan spell. United finished 15th in the Premier League last season, scoring the 5th lowest number of goals in the top flight. The dust is settling on Paris Saint-Germain's Champions League win over the weekend, but reflections on the new formats to the competition will continue. For the first time, 36 clubs competed in a league format before playoffs and then the knockout phase. Next season, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea, Newcastle and Tottenham will all be involved. Here's the thoughts of our commentator John Murray.
I enjoyed it for the novelty value and to see how it would work. And it certainly threw up some interesting fixtures. They're not going to go backwards because it's created 2 extra matches in the league phase, and that's what they wanted because of the extra revenues, etc. So it's no good saying, well, let's go back to whatever, because it's going to stay at least the size that it is. But it's the fairness of it that I still have an issue with. Well, 2 things. Fairness I have an issue with because of who you are drawn against, which is historical. It's not as fair as it would be if you worked the fixtures out as you went along, but clearly that's impossible because that's a logistical impossibility to work that out, the travel details, everything that's involved with that. So there is an issue there with the fairness, and I'm also uncomfortable with, even though it's exciting and dramatic on those on the later nights and the final night particularly when all the matches were played at the same time, but I felt working on it that night as a commentator and as an observer and actually following the same thing in the Europa League the next night as a spectator, I felt it was overwhelming. There was too much going on, and that's not what football's about. Football's about watching the match that's taking place on the field, not watching a table that's going up and down.
And for more football news from the BBC, go to bbc.com/football.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
That's how much we can take on today's edition of the show. That's a Scoreboard in 15 right here on 32 FM 94.9. But what will come later in the afternoon, we'll discuss about the UEFA Champions League, the winners and the losers from the game that went down over the course of the weekend. Yes, I know Inter Milan were the losers, but then you talk about the team of the season of this year's edition of the UEFA Champions League. So we'll come later in the afternoon by 3:30 to discuss more on that. I am SAMIES, your sports captain. I say do enjoy the rest of the day, and bye for now.